How many more decades do I have to wait before I see a resolution to my case?
Denise didn't deserve to die the way she did. So many people want answers on how this happened. It seems like we've been waiting forever.
Every year, our message remains the same: justice for Trish Haynes. She was silenced. We won't be. 7 years have passed since her brutal murder. 7 years of heartbreak, silence, and unanswered questions. 7 years without justice. Trish deserves better, and we deserve the truth. We will not stop speaking her name. We will not stop demanding answers. We will not stop until justice is served.
My family has waited 21 years for answers about Mara, and we're not alone. Too many families have carried unbearable burdens while hearing too little from investigators. It's time to do better for our loved ones and every family trapped in the ache of not knowing.
The New Hampshire Coalition of Families of the Missing and Murdered, comprised of victims and their families of unresolved missing and murder cases, have joined forces. Bonded over trauma, loss, and the hope that with numbers, the broken system can change. Our gathering August 15th will feature remarks from family members, advocates, survivors, and leaders. It's a powerful day that you do not want to miss. All are welcome to attend. Your presence matters. Come help support this movement. With numbers, we can bring about change.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us today at this gathering organized by the New Hampshire Coalition of Families of the Missing and Murdered. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for confirmation in the back. My name is Amanda Bedard, and I'm a victim advocate and a co-founding member of this coalition. I'll be your MC and organizer for the day, and I'll keep the event flowing and organized, or at least as organized as we can. We truly do appreciate all of you taking the time to attend this gathering. Looking around, it is apparent that our message and the work we are doing is being heard and seen, given how much this event has grown over the past 3 years. Our coalition formed from a space of shared grievances and frustration, and quickly created bonds that really cannot be described unless you exist in this space of trauma. It's clear to all of us that the justice system in New Hampshire is broken, and unless we band together with numbers and with amplified voices, nothing will change. We must be a voice for the voiceless. Over the past few years, we focused on many problem areas within the Attorney General's office and law enforcement that need change. This is based on our own personal experiences and many of the experiences you will hear about from people today. You'll hear from victims, advocates, and family members about their experiences. We've published these areas of focus for this year in our formal press release, and they are displayed on signs, and I also have printouts. But in summary, these areas include putting processes in place and a guaranteed commitment from the Attorney General's office and law enforcement to improve routine communication, improve transparency, engage with empathy, and foster an environment of partnership, not resistance. And of course, secure dedicated resources, including people and technology, to improve cold case resolution. We're not asking for anything that some other states don't already do. We are, in fact, asking for bare minimums to make this broken system work, actually work, for all. Not just the Attorney General's office and law enforcement, but for the families as well. Today we have a packed full agenda with multiple speakers. You'll hear directly from family members, survivors, and advocates telling you their stories and keeping the stories of their loved ones alive. It is an emotional day, and you will feel and see that. We're not actors. These are real stories with real people living with this trauma every single day. This year, we do have some guest legislator speakers, as well as some other officials, just got added to the agenda, and we are thankful for that recognition and support. So with that being said, we're going to kick it off with the first speaker today, who is Senator Victoria Sullivan.
Good afternoon. It is my honor to read this proclamation on behalf of Governor Ayotte. But before I do, I just want to say I understand that this does not ease your burden or your grief, but I hope it does provide some solace knowing that your loved ones are not forgotten and you are not alone. The State of New Hampshire, by Her Excellency Kelly A. Ayotte, Governor, a proclamation. In the year of our Lord 2025, Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims, August 15th, 2025. Whereas too many families across New Hampshire continue to endure the pain of losing a loved one to an unsolved homicide, with more than 130 unsolved murders and missing persons cases still awaiting justice. Whereas the murder of a loved one robs the victim's family of a mother, father, sister, brother, son, daughter, husband, wife, partner, grandparent, aunt, uncle, extended family member, friend, neighbor, or colleague, and creates an overwhelming challenge to fill the void their absences creates. And whereas each of these unsolved cases presents not just an investigation, but a human life whose story was cut short, and a family that continues to search for answers, truth, and accountability. And whereas this day offers an opportunity for all Granite Staters to stand with those affected by unsolved homicides, honoring the lives lost, supporting the loved ones left behind, and recognizing the tireless work of law enforcement and victim advocates who seek justice. And whereas by remembering these victims and renewing our commitment to solving these crimes, we uphold the fundamental values of justice, compassion, and community that define New Hampshire. Now, therefore, Kelly Ayotte, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, does hereby proclaim August 15th, 2025, a day of remembrance for homicide victims in the state of New Hampshire, and encourage all citizens to honor the memories of those lost and support efforts to bring answers to justice for their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. We so appreciate you and your time, and thank you. Thank you, Val. And thank you so much for reading that proclamation. Next, we're going to move into some family advocate and survivor speakers. So I'd first like to welcome the family of Maura Murray.
Imagine waking up every morning for 7,857 days, and the first thought that enters your mind is the same question. Is this the day I finally learn what happened? That's my reality for 21 years. My sister Maura vanished on the side of the road in 2004. But I'm not here to tell you Maura's story. You've heard it. I'm here to tell you what it's like to live in the aftermath. 21 years of existing in a limbo that never ends. This is the reality Governor Ayotte doesn't mention when she proudly declares New Hampshire the safest state in the nation. Safe for whom? Not for Maura, not for Trish Haynes, not for Jane Borowski, and not for the dozens of other missing and murdered people whose families stand here today. Families left behind to navigate a broken system alone. Some spending their whole life savings on private investigators because law enforcement won't return their calls. The fact is, low crime rates don't mean cases get solved. They don't bring Mara home. They don't provide answers to families who have waited decades for justice. You can't claim to be the safest state in the nation when families are living in terror. Not of what might happen, but what has already happened and may never be resolved. Low crime stats don't equal safety when the crimes that do happen disappear into bureaucratic black holes. The governor boasts about expanding the cold case unit, but expansion without accountability is just political theater. We need more than just budget line items. We need regular communication with families, clear protocols for case reviews, and an end to the wall of silence that surround these investigations. We appreciate the consideration, but it's a first step. Let's be honest. 2 investigators cannot possibly review, re-examine, and actively work over 65 cases each. Cases that have been neglected for years. It's a symbolic gesture designed to quiet us, not solve cases. We need real change, not token positions that let officials check a box and claim they're addressing the problem. To the families here today, your pain is real. Your demands for answers are reasonable. Your loved ones deserve better than becoming a statistic in a cold case. To our elected officials, safety isn't just about prevention. It's about resolution. It's about justice. It's about not abandoning families to carry the weight of not knowing alone. 21 years ago, Mara became a missing person. Today, I stand before you as proof that time does not heal all, especially when those wounds are kept open by indifference, by secrecy, by a system that mistakes low crime rates for actual safety. We're not asking for miracles. We're asking for justice. We're asking for transparency. We're asking to be seen, heard, and remembered, not just by our communities, but by the officials who claim to serve us. Our missing and murdered loved ones are not just cases to be managed. They're our siblings, our children, our parents. They deserve more than budget proposals and tone-deaf press releases. They deserve justice no matter how long it takes, and we will not stop demanding it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's hard to believe this is our 3rd year here. It's equally hard to believe that our family has been enduring our tragedy for over 21 years now, which at this point represents well over half of my life. It's truly rare and powerful to be amongst a group of people that can relate to the personal things that I'm about to discuss. Our ordeal started when I was just 15 years old. I stand now before you at the age of 36, a veteran of a sort of what I feel can be described as a war of attrition. You battle things like time, lack of resources, frustration with the lack of progress and communication from law enforcement, your emotional fortitude, and your overall will to persevere when sometimes it feels like the world is stacked against you. As such, like many of you, I have many scars and have taken damage. Imagine being a 15-year-old standing at the edge of the woods. It's part of a search party. You look to the front of the group with the search party leader, probably not knowing who you are and thinking you're just another volunteer, nonchalantly says, "All right, folks, we're most likely looking for a body. If you smell something strange on the air, you should follow it because you'll most likely find it." I will never forget the horror I felt in that moment, because it had never occurred to me that I may be the one to find my sister in those woods. I knew that it would come at a great personal toll to me. but I found something out about myself that day that I'm sure I have in common with many of you, that I have courage, because I stepped into those woods and I searched, knowing full well there was a heavy price to pay if I was the one that found her. I did not find Maura that day, but the recurring nightmares that I had for years afterwards were very real. I have stood alongside my sister Julie, digging with my own two hands, looking for remains, with half of myself hoping to find them, the other half praying that I don't, because again, these things do damage. There is a heavy price to pay. And the thing is, the longer these cases linger, the more time that passes, the more likely we as family members are to put ourselves in harm's way, to take that damage. Because when you feel abandoned in your efforts, what choice do you have? We're willing to bear that burden. We should be able to rely on law enforcement to do these things, but unfortunately, we often can't. And some of the most traumatic things I've experienced have been during our private search efforts. None of us here live normal lives. We're plagued by guilt, by a voice in the back of our heads that says, how can I live my life? How can I find happiness, find peace, when my loved one was robbed of theirs? We live in a world in shades of gray, haunted by memories, by images. For me, it's ones like our mother looking up to a Maura's West Point photograph that still hangs on the wall above where she slept today, with tears in her eyes filled with the dread that only a parent can feel when their baby is missing. And she was devastatingly frustrated not to be able to take part physically in the search efforts herself because she was too physically ill. I watched her be vilified for her absence. I see the pain in my sister Kathleen's eyes as we combed through Maura's belongings after they were released by law enforcement, looking for something, for anything, that could give us a direction that we may have insight as a family member. The images are countless. These are bad memories, but it's the good memories, the ones that you cherish, that bring a smile to your face, that you wouldn't give up for the world, that can be the dangerous ones. Because that smile can turn to sadness, and that sadness can turn to anger, and that anger can turn to a bitterness. Because those memories remind you of what you have lost, of how you've been robbed, and that bitterness can consume your life if you let it. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn is how to channel that bitterness and that anger into resolve, which is something I feel we have all accomplished here today. These are the burdens that we shoulder as those left behind in the wakes of these tragedies. That's why it's so crucially important that those in charge of these investigations are held accountable for their missteps, that there's a system of transparent communication and escalation where possible to allocate additional resources when cases stall. I am incredibly proud to be standing here with this coalition today, united in our mission to give our loved ones a voice that will not be silenced. A voice that demands meaningful changes, changes that have tangible results, not ineffective ones that are masked and justified by statistics. These changes could give our loved ones a legacy that can reach far beyond their tragedies, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today on behalf of our family. And I'd like to thank those who are sharing their experiences because I know firsthand how scary and painful it can be. With that, I'd like to hand things over to the family of Trish Haynes to elaborate on their experiences.
Hello, my name is Valerie Haynes Alvarez. I'm the great aunt of Trish Haynes, who was murdered and dismembered in 2018 in Grafton, New Hampshire. Unlike many families here today, Trish is not missing. She was murdered. After months of reported abuse and imprisonment, her known killer and 3 others who helped dismember and dump her body in a submerged washing machine in Grants Pond still walked free. It's been 7 years. Witnesses have come forward. The investigators have done their work, yet no arrest. It is absolutely appalling to see the sheer numbers of unsolved or unprosecuted missing and murdered cases in New Hampshire. For such a small state, having more than 130 is staggering. In my niece's case, the facts are there. The evidence is there. The problem is not the investigation. The failure is to act, and that failure lies squarely on the Attorney General's office. Since 2009, when Stacy Burns was murdered in her home in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, with no charges ever filed, I said, if you want to kill somebody, do it in New Hampshire. You'll never be charged. I never imagined that 9 years later, my own family would be living that nightmare. We are here today because New Hampshire can and must do better. Justice delayed is justice denied, and we will not stop until it's delivered. Thank you. It's my honor to now turn the podium over to Chloe French, a steadfast advocate for our family from day one.
My name is Chloe, and I will be speaking further on behalf of the family of Trish Haynes today. When I first started the Justice for Trish page in 2018, I never would have guessed we would still be holding and attending these events in 2025. How could anyone have guessed that? We are led to believe that we are living in a society that is made to hold others accountable. We are told that is why there are laws, rules, and regulations set forth that we are all to abide by, as well as predetermined consequences should we defer from what is acceptable behavior in this day and age. We are told that these rules and regulations are for our safety, and we are all expected to adhere to them, and we are all slapped with the consequences if we fail to do so. But what happens when we are not? What happens when someone is allowed to rape, assault, steal, cause chaos within their community, and even commit murder, and not be held accountable? And what happens when those same people are then allowed to commit those same crimes over and over again? Well, what happens is that those same crimes continue on, and they escalate in severity. Trish was so grotesquely, so violently and disturbingly dismembered that there was nothing more than fragmented bone found within that washing machine. So what will those responsible for her death do next? Who will they prey upon the next time? Who will be the next body located in pieces, thrown away like a piece of garbage? Because history repeats itself, and offenders will reoffend, especially when they are repeatedly let loose by the careless members of our judicial system, those who are meant to protect us, those who are meant to uphold order. Beaten, starved, assaulted, and murdered, dismembered, set on fire, distributed, left to rot. That was the end of Trish Haynes' life. Trish Danielle Haynes, who was born on July 22nd, 1992, and who doesn't even have an official date of death, just a range. She is believed to have been murdered on May 18th of 2018, but the family will never have the peace of even knowing the official date of her death. But they do know that she was murdered. They know who she was last known to be living with. They know from first-hand witnesses the disturbing treatment that went on in that household. They know that both Ashley and Doug Smith claimed Trish lost her cell phone within the first week of being with them. They know that the only contact Trish was allowed to have with her family was through Ashley's phone, while Ashley was always present, always telling Trish exactly when it was time to end the call. The family knows that from May to July of 2018, Ashley Smith and her mother, Wendy Place, continuously made false statements to the police, as well as public social media comments to the family about Trish's whereabouts. First stating she had fled to Vermont with an unknown male. Then when that fabricated story started to fall apart, they moved on to a different tactic. They tried fear. Ashley contacted Trish's grandmother to say, if you don't stop looking for your granddaughter, you will never see her again. In mid-June of 2018, they publicly stated they were in current contact with her family, and that Trish simply did not want contact with anyone. But how could that have been true when Trish was murdered the month prior? The family knows that the woman who originally covered for Ashley under false pretenses went back to the police department and recanted her story, leaving Ashley's claims unable to be verified. The family knows that 4 months after Trish's remains were publicly announced as being found, Doug Smith sent them a message stating, "It's been 4 months and I'm still walking tall." What the family does not know is why nothing has been done. Was it because Trish didn't fit the narrative of a sensational story? When Trish was first reported missing and photos from the family were given to be included with the report, what was done? They blasted out a mugshot of Trish instead. A mugshot from an arrest that should not have happened in the first place, and I would like to briefly touch base on that. Trish had managed to escape an abusive relationship in New Hampshire, and she had taken all the right steps. She filed the police report against the aggressor, and she had moved to Florida with family for a fresh start. Unfortunately, as abusers often do, he was able to convince Trish to recant her original police report, citing it was ruining his life, and that there would be no further issues between the two of them, given she was no longer in the state. So Trish, being a victim of this man's previous abuse, agreed to drop the charges. What followed next was a disgusting and callous move on law enforcement's part. They chose to charge Trish with filing a false police report, and then demanded she travel back to New Hampshire to face charges that any officer with integrity would not have filed in the first place. And did she face those charges? No, because she was murdered before she was able to. The state of New Hampshire lured Trish to her death, and here we are 7 years later, and they have failed to arrest those responsible. Look around at all these families. Every single one of them has been failed by the judicial system in our state, and maybe that's why it's called the criminal justice system. The criminals are the only ones to receive it. So while Trish's mugshot was being blasted around the state with the title of Florida Woman Missing, those responsible for her murder took the time to ensure that any trace of Trish was erased. What they failed to realize is that they did not get everything. What they also failed to realize is that even if detectives gave up, having been overburdened with a multitude of other cases, Trish's family would not. We have not forgotten, and we will continue to ensure that Trish's name is not forgotten. To add salt to the wound, while Trish is being mourned by her loved ones, while she is missing out on living the rest of her life, Ashley Smith walks free among us. Not only is she free, but she is also being entrusted with the care of her newborn baby, the baby who was conceived during her recent incarceration in a New Hampshire state prison. The fact that DCYF already has proven that she is an unfit parent by removing her children means nothing. They cannot step in to prevent harm from happening to this child. They can only step in once harm has been done. And yet we wonder how this can happen. How can kids fall through the cracks and go missing? This right here is how. It is a complete and utter failure on the state of New Hampshire. Trish will never have the opportunity to become a wife, a mother. She will never have the opportunity to reinvent herself into exactly the type of woman she always wanted to be, because 7 years ago she was brutally murdered, and her murderers are now free to do all of the same things Trish isn't able to. For all we know, Ashley could be here today, and that is because of the lack of actions taken by the officials in the state of New Hampshire, and because of that, she may very well murder again. Take a look around you. Every person in attendance is here for the same reason. We want answers, we want justice, and we want accountability. We want to prevent another family from going through the same hell on earth that each and every one of us currently walks through. We are not alone, and we will not be silenced. Thank you all for coming, and please don't give up, because together we will make change. And our next speaker will be Jane Borowski and her daughter Jessica.
Nice job.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Garrity and Miles for being here. They show up for us every year in support of us. And it doesn't go unnoticed. Trust me, it does not. I'd like to also thank everybody that's here in support of us. In 1988, I was 7 months pregnant, and I was attacked and stabbed 27 times by what most thought was a serial killer. I've told my story 1,000 times, and it doesn't get easier. At first, because my case was supposedly related to a serial killer that had killed several women in the state of New Hampshire, my case was up in the cold case unit. Since then, my case has been removed from the cold case unit. Where is my case? Who's investigating it? I really don't know. I guess because it was 37 years ago, it doesn't matter anymore. But it does matter, because whoever attacked me tried to kill me. It was attempted murder. And I believe I was not his first and only victim. Yes, I'm thankful I'm alive. I'm thankful my daughter survived. But it doesn't take away the fact that my case is still unsolved. I have people come to my house to give me tips on my case till this day. That's been going on for over 20 years. I can't do anything with these tips. I don't have the resources, and it's not my job to investigate these tips. So I tell them, go to the cold case unit, send them to the cold case unit, send them to the state police. And then they come back and they tell me they did. All these tips were already sent, but they're not getting any response. So where is my tips going? Where are these tips going to solve my case and other cases? We don't know. I don't know, because I don't even know who is investigating my case. This is unacceptable, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. There are way too many unsolved cases in this state. We have always been put in the position that we had to trust that our cases were getting the attention they deserved. We had to trust that they were being investigated. But how do we know when we have lack of communication, zero transparency? I call now and still nobody knows who's investigating my case 37 years later. It's like bounced around from state police to local to cold case unit. I don't know. And that's just unacceptable. The magic word around here today is unsolved. There's so many signs. All the signs have unsolved on them, whether it's unsolved missing or unsolved murdered. Too many. Our governor, Kelly Ayotte, did a press release and said New Hampshire is a safe state. New Hampshire is a safe state, she said. There's over 130 unsolved cases in the cold case unit. How is that unsafe? How is that a safe state? How are we a safe state? Too many unsolved cases. It's unacceptable. 17-year-old Bernice Quartermash. Her case is 41 years old, unsolved. Eva Morse, she was murdered in 1985, unsolved. Kathy Milliken was murdered in 1978. She was 26 years old, still unsolved. Mary Betsy Critchley, she was murdered in 1981. She was 37 years old, still unsolved. Sylvia Gray was murdered in 1982. 76 old she was. Her case still remains unsolved. And she was murdered right down the street from her house. Carrie Moss was just 14 years old when she was murdered. Her case still remains unsolved since 1989. Ellen Freed was murdered in 1984. She was just 26 years old. She was a nurse. Unsolved. Kathy Glotty was just 13 years old in 1971. Her case is unsolved after 54 years. Tammy Belanger, she was 8 years old. She's still missing since 1984. There's a goodie. Tina and Bethany Sinclair, missing since 2001. People know who murdered them, and they still walk the streets. They still are not charged. They're not even a person of interest. Crazy. A 130 unsolved cases in New Hampshire, in the cold case unit alone. This is unacceptable. This is just unacceptable. Every year we do these rallies, and there's never a case solved in between the year. There's never any resolution to anything. When do we get answers? When do we start solving some of these cases? There's way too many. There's 130 unsolved cold cases in New Hampshire right now, missing and murdered. Where does our case fit? I was attacked and stabbed 27 times when I was pregnant with my daughter. I survived, but nobody knows where my case is. I don't know who's investigating it. I don't know if it's being investigated because I don't know where my case is.
That's unacceptable.
We need to do more. We need better. I am very grateful to be a part of this coalition. For so many years, I felt alone.
You're not alone.
No way.
We're with you.
No way.
I try so hard to be a voice for the voiceless. Because I have a voice. Yes, I was a victim, but I have a voice. So what do? I try to be a voice for the voiceless, for those who no longer have a voice. And I think that's all our responsibility. We need to solve some of these cases. We need to start seeing justice. I'm sorry. There needs to be change. And
Love you, Jay.
when thank you. I'm so off course with what I was supposed to say. We need answers. We need action. Every year, this grows bigger and bigger. And there's so many unsolved cases in New Hampshire right now, and there shouldn't be. That year after year after year, we've been doing this for 3 years, and not one case has been solved out of the cold case unit.
Bullshit.
3 years. But we are still going to keep coming here and speaking for those who no longer have a voice. Because who's going to do it? I have a voice, fortunately, for my case. But I don't have anybody to go to that wants to listen or wants to try to solve my case or work on my case. Because my case is a cold case, but my case doesn't have any place. It doesn't belong in the cold case unit because I wasn't murdered. It doesn't belong here because I survived. It's like I'm in limbo all the time. So I talk to this one and I talk to that one and I try to find answers and I try to find somebody who wants to listen. And the best thing I can do for myself is to advocate for those that cannot advocate for themselves. And that's why we're here, is to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. It's hard when I have people come to me and tell me they have a tip or they have information, and I don't know where to send them. I can't investigate it. I'm not an investigator. So where do I send them? I send them to this person. Well, no, because I survived, I don't fit in that, my case doesn't fit in that category for those investigators to investigate my case. So I send them to this place. Well, those investigators never even heard of my case. It's just, I'm just like left in limbo most of the time. But me and my daughter, we're gonna continue to fight. We're gonna continue to fight for those who no longer have a voice. And we need change. And we need to start seeing more cases being solved and investigated, and just more action. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments so far. We're going to move into more family spots now. I'd like to introduce to you all the family of Denise Robert.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah, I want to thank all the speakers today. Very touching, Jane, everyone. It's not hard to get up and it's hard to get up and talk in front of everyone like this, but I got to tell you, 10 years ago, my sister was shot in one of the best neighborhoods in Manchester. Whoever did it is got off scot-free. Law enforcement has no clue as to what happened, who did it, or it seems anything else. I really can't believe that something like that could happen in New Hampshire, especially the best part of Manchester. How does that something like that happen? I really can't understand that. And then to be asking the same questions over and over again for 9 years and not getting any answers. I want to thank the coalition for creating the group. It's been an absolute godsend, right?
Thank you.
9 years after my sister was murdered, I didn't know what to do. I was frustrated, I was angry. I reached out to the media. I reached out to politicians. I sent emails to the police. And I can't believe that these guys weren't able to solve the case. I know that cases go unsolved, but this was in the best part of Manchester. Anyway, since last year, when we joined forces with a group, everything seemed to turn around. All of a sudden, we got new respect from the Attorney General's office. We got regular meetings. We started getting our emails answered, our phone calls answered. And it was like night and day. I have to admit, a couple of people in my family, a couple of my brothers and sisters were against us joining up with the coalition. They feared that if we joined up, that the AG's office would kind of drop the ball on our case. Well, the very opposite happened. Don't underestimate the people in this group right here. Change is coming. They're relentless. Their persistence. They're not going to give up. I'm not going to let them give up because I'm part of the team now. My brother Joe's part of the team now. My whole family, there's 10, I've got 9 other siblings. My niece Camille is going to help out too. I got to wonder, when you go into a meeting and you ask a question, well, how many calls have you made on Denise's case, right? And they respond with a 5-minute word salad of this, that, and the other thing that left me more confused than I was before I asked the question. I mean, I gotta wonder, are they even good with that, right? You gotta wonder, are they just following, singing to a sheet of music, a set of procedures that they've been following all these years? When's the last time the state did a truly comprehensive review about how they handle missing and murdered cases, right? Did they, and if they did that include comparisons with other states in New England, with other states in the country?
Doubt it.
Did it include, did it take into account the latest FBI statistics, methodologies? I don't know. Things got to change. This frustration, this anger, and it's boiling over.
That's right.
Look, I'm not trying to here to bash the guys in the AG's office, and I really appreciate you showing up. I really do. But the optics on this are kind of bad. Right? You got to admit. Anyway, I want to thank everyone in the coalition. Thanks for supporting me, my family. Thanks for listening to my frustrations. And let's hope we'll listen to this year. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have the family of Morgan Patton.
First, I want to thank you all for being here today to support this incredibly important effort. And thank you for allowing me an opportunity to speak. My name's Steve Patton. I'm here with my wife, Renee. We're both credentialed victim advocates, and we recently collaborated with 2 additional outstanding advocates on a project titled the Advocacy Blueprint, a program designed to empower all families seeking justice. Renee and I are lifelong residents of New Hampshire, and our daughter, Morgan Patton, was a homicide victim in 2019, not here in our home state, but in North Carolina. And just like I've heard Fred Murray describe his missing daughter, Maura, our Morgan became a victim without a state. Law enforcement in North Carolina didn't seem to care much about the Jane Doe that was face down in a ditch on a dead-end road in the middle of nowhere. They didn't seem to care much about the fact she had been in the state for less than 4 hours when she was killed, about the same amount of time that it took to identify her. They developed a theory within 30 minutes of her death, investigated just enough to make that theory possible, and closed the door. The district attorney in Onslow County, North Carolina, told us investigating and prosecuting what really happened to our daughter would be hard. So they chose the path of least resistance, leaving us to fight for nearly 6 years now to find out what really happened to our only child. We didn't come here to talk at length about Morgan and what happened to her in North Carolina, though we both do love talking about Morgan, and we'd be happy to share more with any of you today, here, in private conversations, or any other day. We came here to stand in solidarity with all of the brave family members of New Hampshire's missing and murdered cold case victims. We have great empathy for each of you, and I want you all to know you have a trusted ally in us. Victims are a great inconvenience to bureaucracy. I woke up with those words in my head one morning about 2 years ago. I honestly don't know if I read those words somewhere or if they literally came to me in my sleep. But I've spent countless hours since that day considering the meaning, and I've related hundreds of hurdles that have been thrown in our way, and I've repeated it many times. Victims are a great inconvenience to bureaucracy, and nobody to date has argued against the legitimacy or the accuracy of that statement. To any investigators who can hear me, prosecutors, political figures, even news media who are here, I want you to think deeply about the reason you chose your respective career, and to remember the excitement of entering a field where you could make a real difference. If you are not feeling that excitement as you start your work day today, maybe it's not for you anymore. These families don't need bureaucracy. These families and their respective victims need that excitement. They need passionate engagement. They need dedication. Most of all, they need empathy and truth. These family members are smarter than you think. And coming from a Marine and a New Hampshire logger by trade, I can honestly tell you that these are the strongest people that I have ever encountered. These are people who wake up every morning, day after day, year after year, to the reality that their best days are behind them and their best memories have already been made, yet they find a way to continue their personal battle. Listen to them intently and provide them all of the truth that you can possibly share. Collectively, victims and victims' families believe in the sentiment of the United States Supreme Court that truth and justice are the foundation of the justice system, not convictions. Like notches in a desk, convictions are the goal of bureaucracy, and victims are a great inconvenience to bureaucracy. Do the hard work. Prove me wrong, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, we have the family of Roberta Bobby Miller. Ken, come on up.
All right. Thank you all for coming. You probably noticed by now there's a theme here, and basically that theme is that none of us are happy with the AG's office. the system here is broken. It doesn't work. I've been involved with this for 15 years since my sister was killed. Nothing's changed. So we need to fix it. So, I was going to start off talking by welcoming you to the club, right? What club was that? Well, that's the club for the missing and murdered. Now let me tell you about the indoctrination to that club. Your life's going on every day, just like it does every day. Things are wonderful, family's good, things are good, you're looking forward to things, whatever the case may be. And then your phone rings. And your life is changed forever. You just found out that somebody's missing or murdered, raped, violated, whatever the case may be. Absolutely terrible, beyond comprehension. Your life will never be the same. So I'm going to ask you guys out there, anybody want to join the club? Because once you join, you can't get out. You're in it for the rest of your life. It's the worst club on the face of the earth. So let's move on. My name's Ken Dion. My sister was Bobby Miller. She was murdered at her home in 2010 along with her dog. Now my sister, and I've never said this stuff to my family. My sister was killed with a shotgun. That is a gruesome weapon. She was shot once in the face and once in the back of the head. Now, that's a vision I have in my mind that will keep me awake at night, and keep anybody awake at night. Well, what happens someday if this goes to court, right? And I'm sitting in the audience with my family, and they bring up crime scene photos. What are you gonna do? I don't know what I'm gonna do. What are you gonna do? You're gonna sit there and look at that, and that's gonna be the last memory, the last vision you have of your sister? I have no idea what I'm gonna do if and when that day comes. So, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to back up to Maura Murray. Maura Murray goes missing in 2004. And for some reason, I don't know why, but that case stuck with me. And I was watching it on the news, and I was seeing how frustrated the family was. I remember the family actually sued the state of New Hampshire. Well, the result of that was the state of New Hampshire, they passed a law. Very ironic, they call it Murray's Exemption, named it after them. And that law says that they don't have to divulge any information in an active and ongoing case. Well, let me tell you, every case is active and ongoing. If it's not solved, it's active and ongoing. That's the way it works. So anyway, it's funny, I paid attention to that case, and I knew, when this happened to my sister, I just knew that I had to maintain my composure at all times when speaking with the state police and the AG's office. I did so for 11 years. After 11 years of the same stuff these guys have been telling you about, you know, lack of correspondence, lack of work, no questions answered. We can't answer that question. It's an active and ongoing case. How about telling me who's assigned to my sister's case? Oh, there's no one assigned to your sister's case. I was told that, no one. Well, that's great. Well, how are you going to solve it? You know, maybe somebody's going to walk through the door and say, I did it. So that's how the AG's office works. Now, you've heard before, they say that we're the safest state in the country. Well, I guess we're a pretty safe state. We're a small state, state. We're pretty safe. Yes, we hold the acclamation of saying we're the safest state in the country. However, for murders, we are number 3. I think murder is pretty serious. As a matter of fact, I think it's the most serious. And we're number 3. We're not number 1. So with all due respect to the Governor Ayotte and our AGs and everybody out there touting that we're the safest state in the nation, it's not true. They also claim, and this was, I just read it last week, that in 2023 we had a almost 93% success rate in solving homicides, of quote unquote, of active cases. Now the key word here is active. 93% success rate in solving active cases. Well, 2 days ago, I was sitting in the AG's office speaking to our 2 new quote unquote full-time AG cold case AGs. And I asked them, these cold cases, are they active and ongoing? And the answer was yes. So I said, well, that's interesting to me, because in 2023, you claim to have had a 93% success rate. Well, if that was true, you would have solved 118 of the 130 cold cases we have. It's smoke and mirrors. This is what they do. They've done it to all of us up here, and they're very, very good at doing it to the public. So let me talk a little bit about our new AGs. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm standing here looking at them. I'm not throwing you under the bus, Chris. I'm not throwing any of our detectives or our investigators under the bus. I truly believe these people, they take the job. They want to do a good job for us. They're sincere. They want to do a good job. They want to come to us and tell us they've solved our case. The problem is their hands are tied, right? There's no money. There's no funding. There's no money. That's no secret. So Kelly Ayotte announces we have 2 full-time prosecutors for cold case. These are full-time prosecutors for cold case. So I asked both of them, there's Rachel and Chris, and I asked them both, are you guys still allowed to prosecute current cases? Well, yes, we are if they need us. Okay, wait a minute. So you're not full-time cold case because you can prosecute current cases. So let's back up a little bit. So then I asked them, I said, how many hours a week do you guys work? I'm curious, how many hours a week do you guys work? And Chris says to me, well, I got in at 5 a.m. this morning. And I knew right away why he got in at 5 a.m. There was a shooting in Keene the previous night. He was on that scene. So let me ask you, why is the chief prosecutor, full-time prosecutor for cold case, working on a current investigation? Doesn't sound to me like he's full-time with cold case. Does anybody agree with me? I mean, this is smoke and mirrors, guys. It's smoke and mirrors. This is what we put up with. So now we have 2 investigators, right? One is a full-time investigator, one is part-time. I believe their work week is 37 and a half hours. I was told 37 and a half. So I'm guessing their half-hour lunch break is something they get paid for. So they've got a 37 and a half hour. The full-time guy has a 37 and a half hour work week. I don't know how long that part-time guy works. Does he work 15 hours, 10 hours a week, every other week, a month? I don't know the answer to that. But I do know there's 130 cold cases. And you've got 37 and a half hours for one man and who knows what for the other, and you think you're going to solve something? It's not going to happen. Oh, by the way, our full-time guy is also the deputy chief to Dick Tracy, who holds another position. So if he's actually a full-time investigator for cold case, how can he hold this deputy chief position besides? So I guess I'm asking which one of his jobs is a part-time job, because one of them is. I just don't know which one. Bear with me, I got a lot to say. We also have 2 state troopers that are being appointed. Well, one of them, one state trooper we do have, he's full-time, I guess. The other one hasn't even been appointed yet. So we have 1, we don't have 2. They tell you we have 2, we don't, we have 1. All right, I got another bone of contention. I got a phone call last year, right out of the blue, from a retired attorney out of Massachusetts. He was a prosecutor. Called me up, said he wanted to help work on my sister's case. Of course, I said, all right, buddy, what's the catch here? There's no catch. I want to help. I want to help. Great. So there becomes a great friendship between me and a gentleman named Alan Rilla. Alan has an impressive resume. He's not just a good attorney, he was an expert in grant funding. That means he knows how to get money. Our cold case has no money. I owe him a debt of gratitude. He's done hundreds of hours of work on this. We meet regularly. He just wants to help. Well, he sent several letters to the AG's office introducing himself, his resume, his record in grant funding, offering to help. You know what the response was? Crickets. No response, not a word. Kind of like some of the responses we get when we ask questions. At any event, when I was at the AG's office the other day, they also told me that they are open to help from anybody that wants to help. If somebody wants to volunteer their time, etc., they're open to people helping out. Well, here we have an attorney, an accredited attorney, offering his time. They don't even acknowledge it. Also, it just came to my attention recently, there's a podcast out there called Murder, She Told. They did a podcast on my sister's story. Well, they had a girl that was working for them, and she took a little sabbatical and offered to help out with the cold case unit here in New Hampshire and wanted to donate her time and help them organize files. So she went through all the procedure, the steps and the paperwork in order to do so, and she's literally on the doorstep ready to start work, and they said, nah, changed our mind. It's not going to happen. So the AG's office is telling me they're open to help. The reality is, when somebody offers to help, they find it as interference. They don't take it. I offered to help with things, I offered many times. I was always told, we'll get back to you on that. They never got back to me, not once. So, let's move along. What we need to do is fix this. And it can be fixed. I actually discussed with Governor Ayotte last fall, creating a task force. Michigan has task force, Florida has task force. Task force is made up of different law enforcement agencies throughout the state. So you get the big cities, you get Manchester, Concord, Nashua, Portsmouth, maybe Keene, maybe Laconia. The FBI will certainly step in, even the Secret Service will step in. You pull these guys together, now you've got 7 or 8 dedicated men dedicated to cold case. You pool your resources. Of course, money is a problem. How do you get the money? Well, in the beginning, that's going to be tough. However, you work out a deal, try to structure it so each jurisdiction ponies up some money, you get the thing off the ground. Once you do, there are donors out there. There are people you can approach and you can get money. You can also, and we've suggested this to the state as well, and of course we didn't hear anything, how about going to the universities? Create an accredited program where these law school students, they're coming in here, they're working on cold case. Maybe they're just organizing files, who knows? But they're working with you, helping you for free, and they're earning credits. It's not a novel idea. Other states do it, we don't. I've got a deck of cards right here in my hand, 52 cards. It's from the state of Connecticut. There's a picture of a victim on every card. There's a $50,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest and a conviction. This is distributed in all the prisons. Think about it, guys, in the prisons. That's where the bad guys are, right? We don't do this. However, Rhode Island does it, and I just saw an ad this morning where New Hampshire is distributing their second annual deck of cards. However, it's not the state of New Hampshire doing it, it's a private entity. I asked a detective about it this morning, he said he never even heard of it. So New Hampshire, get on the ball. This should be in every correctional facility. I'm almost done, guys. So what I'm doing here is suggesting, and I hope you guys are listening out there, that New Hampshire actually does create a task force. We need a task force, guys. You know, look past your egos, be willing to work with others. Let's get a task force going. It can be done. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's obvious that our system doesn't work. We had 119 cold cases in 2010. We have 130 today. Obviously, it's not working. So I'm going to ask, with all due respect, that you listen to me, please. I know I'm going to engage with some of you after this. We need this task force. We need our governor. We need our senators. We had one senator here today. Thank you very much, Senator Sullivan, for coming. We appreciate it. We need your constituents. We need everybody here. So, yeah, I'm done, guys, but one other thing I want to make clear here, it's funny, I should have started with this. You notice all the pictures of the victims up here. You don't see a picture of my sister. Am I here for my sister? Of course I am. But it's bigger than that. The system is broken. It's broken. So please, please think about this. Reach out to your senators and state reps. Tell them we need to fix this. Thank you all very much.
Nice job.
Thank you, Ken.